Hello and thank you for joining us today. I'm Paul Stover, President of the OC Forum, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to providing a civil public space focused on events that impact our community. Our goal is to facilitate extraordinary programs with visionaries, connections, conversations, and solutions. On behalf of the entire OC Forum Board, we'd like to thank you for joining us for the Future of virtual program series made possible by presenting sponsors UCI and UCI Health. With the support of all our generous sponsors and viewers like you, the OC Forum has been able to provide great virtual conversations with completely open access to the entire community. If you are able, we would appreciate your donation or membership so that we may continue to provide these timely programs. We look forward to your continued partnership as we celebrate the OC Forum's 30th anniversary throughout the year. Because without your support, our public service programming simply would not be possible. Thank you again for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy today's program. And don't forget to have a great OC Day.
At UCI, we believe in the infinitely curious. We believe in the courageous of thought, the ones willing to fail again and again until one day they don't. When you have the courage to see things differently, to see opportunity where others see impossibility, amazing things will happen. At UCI, we stop at nothing to change the world, to save lives, and deliver the extraordinary.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our exciting program on the future of sports, the rise of esports and competitive gaming, presented by UCI and UCI Health. My name is Mark Deppy, and I'm the Director for Esports at UC Irvine. I also serve as the Commissioner for the North America Scholastic Esports Federation, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. Video games have been a huge part of our society for several decades, and in the last 10 years, esports have really emerged as a cultural and global phenomenon. In 2014, Robert Morris University in Chicago offered the first scholarships for esports, and since then, hundreds of colleges and high schools have invested in esports programs, offering millions of dollars of scholarships and building out great infrastructure to support this growing interest. Today, we're going to talk to several panelists who are helping build the future of sports, the future of esports, on college campuses, on high school campuses, and even participating in them. So we have three awesome segments today. And our first guest will help us talk about the history and the new opportunities that esports afford us. So please help me welcome our first moderator, our first presenter today, Dr. Steve Walk. He's the Associate Vice President for South County Operations Initiatives at Cal State University Fullerton. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Mark. Glad to be here.
Well, awesome. I hope all is well on your campus. I know you're in the library. Hope things are all
rather quiet.
So if I can just kind of start off, for those folks that might be new to esports or uninitiated, not understanding what our topic is today, can you please describe for us what you consider esports?
Well, basically, esports is a form of sport competition using video games, and of course, I think most people know that. The reason I think it's called esports, and I think that sports is a good term for it, is the level of organization, complexity, and competition that is now represented in esports worldwide. So when you move from playing informally in a very unstructured way in your home and move that to a very visible, worldwide, very heavily watched and institution in which a lot of institutions and organizations and corporations are involved, then you're talking about sports. And so sports turns out to be the appropriate term to use for this kind of competition.
Well, thank you for that. I totally agree. And we'll hear from an athlete later, and you'll hear that they train the same way, they practice the same way, and they spend a lot of time and energy honing their crafts. So a lot of college esports right now exist at a club level. A lot of universities are exploring building programs, and I know that's where Fullerton is right now. Can you explain kind of your journey through esports? How are you involved right now? What does it look like on your campus?
Well, so my own personal journey getting there is somewhat of a confluence of three things. First off, I've been very involved in athletics at Cal State Fullerton. I was our NCAA rep for 9 years. I was actually the interim athletic director for 6 months. And as an academician, I'm also a sociologist who studies sports as a social phenomenon. So in short, I'm a sports nut. And so I had that sort of mindset going into all the work that I do. And then when I was appointed vice president at our Irvine campus, or what's called our Irvine Center now, I found that we were positioned a short 2 blocks from the largest software company in Orange County, Blizzard Entertainment. And I also noticed on my first day at Irvine that Blizzard was having events in our building with their employees, 2,000 employees at the time. And of course, my mind starts working. Well, what is this phenomenon of esports? And the more I looked into it, the more I realized that not only was it the wave of the future, but that we in Orange County are particularly well situated in this esports universe. And then, of course, I looked up the road, and the premier program in the United States in collegiate esports was at your institution under your directorship. And I thought, well, we need to look into this more carefully and more closely. So that, and then I began to look at what is the level of interest and involvement of our students at Cal State Fullerton right now. And as you might imagine, it was intense. And in fact, one of the things that we did was we did the same exact survey that you did at UCI for undergraduates. I believe that you found, right, Mark, 72% of your undergraduates identified as gamers in 2016. Well, we did a similar survey here, and we found that 82% of our undergraduates identify themselves as gamers. So we were certainly onto something that we thought we needed to explore more further. And then I began to get to know some of the students involved in our student gaming club and how entrepreneurial they had to be in order just to make things happen. They played all the time, but they would, and they would be provided space on campus. They would be hauling their computers into a space and having a competition, but then they'd have to tear it all down and take it home. And I thought there was sufficient reason to kind of build out the infrastructure on our campus to support esports for lots of different reasons, inclusivity being one of them. If 82% of the students on your campus are interested in one thing, shouldn't that tell you something about where perhaps some of your campus resources should go? So you put all those things together, and that's how I became involved.
Well, awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, the survey we did in 2016 was really compelling, and it's hard to find anything that's 72 or 82% of people agree on these days. And so identifying the opportunity certainly opened some eyes for folks when we did our program. One of the things I've been challenged with at UCI, and I'm sure you are as well at Fullerton, is kind of justifying the alignment of this thing of video games and the mission, the teaching, the research, the service mission of our campuses. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about how you describe that to your stakeholders in and around your campus, about why, other than 82% of people are interested, why is this a compelling initiative to launch at Fullerton?
Well, to me, for us, the primary reason for us to be involved in esports is student engagement. if you are not adequately representing in your campus opportunities something that has that much interest among your students, then you're probably missing something. So that's the primary reason. However, there are all kinds of reasons to do this on a college campus. As reflected in the 4 pillars that you used at UCI to found your program, you know, for example, that the industries reflected in esports cross disciplines, right? They cross disciplines across your campus. It's not just technical. It's not just creative. It's not just recognizing the entertainment industry. It's not just recognizing the direction of retail, moving from sort of in-person shopping to experiential kinds of retailing opportunities. All of those trends all of those patterns on a campus are compelling reasons to do this. When you add the fact that both of our campuses are situated in one of the hubs of the gaming industry in the world, then it also compels you as a campus to start thinking in terms of workforce needs. There are jobs in these industries that are attractive, they're interesting, they're fun. And in fact, at the Irvine Center, whenever Blizzard is in our building having an event or having a meeting, our students want to go in the room and see what's going on in there, insinuate themselves into the space in some way. And that tells you really everything you need to know. And so there are lots of different reasons for our campus to be involved. And I think workforce development is chief among those.
Yeah, I'm glad you took the conversation there. Yeah, we started our program with 4 pillars, but we added a 5th pillar of careers after our first year because we saw we were in this unique position of connecting people to opportunities, but also helping them tell their stories about why being an elite gamer, why having this tenacious appetite for self-improvement and getting better at this team sport, how that qualifies you for anything you want to do.
Exactly. Add one more thing, if I might, Mark, which is that when you then look at what programs like NASEF are doing, NASEF has 40 plus schools that they support in Orange County itself. Most of our students at Cal State Fullerton come from Orange County. Most of our alums stay in Orange County. So we are, the Cal State School for Orange County. And so we need to reflect that in what it is that we do. And so increasing numbers of students are going to be coming from Orange County high schools, coming to Cal State Fullerton, having had an esports or gaming experience, and expect that to continue. And so I think we have that responsibility as well.
Well, awesome. I totally agree. And yeah, I was going to share that our first graduate of our program, people always assume that everyone's going to go be a game designer when they finish with our program, but our first graduate actually just got his master's in pharmaceutical sciences from USC. So you can be an elite Overwatch player and then go be a pharmacist. And so anyways, I'm a huge fan of the skills that people build while playing on a team in a competitive esports environment with some good structure. It really does force you to master some skills like time management and discipline, and find ways to improve and overcome failure. So we talked about some of the careers. I guess I want to ask one final question for you, and I'm going to ask this of all our panelists today, but what do you think the future of esports and sports looks like? What is it going to look like in 5 years?
Well, I think we're getting somewhat of a glimpse of it right now under these pandemic conditions, which one telling thing that you saw was that professional athletes, bereft of the ability to go step onto the field, stepped behind their computers and played esports. And this happened across sports. Hopefully you've seen some examples of this. But the other thing that you saw was that the live sports, like for example, I watch Premier League soccer. The one thing that was missing from of course they couldn't have crowds there, so they put fake crowds there, cardboard figures in the audience, and fake sound there. And what that tells you is something very important, that these are collective phenomena, that I'm not sure we'd be talking about esports today if one component of its development wasn't these huge events where people gather in one place and watch the highest and the highest level competition taking place in these games. These are incredibly important cultural phenomena. And then one other indication of the future of this, I would say, I see in my own household, which is I have a 9-year-old and a 17-year-old, and gaming is an integral part of both of their lives. And it will, so that tells me this is going to continue into the future. The future is with the 5-year-olds who can navigate a device more easily than a 75-year-old, and are fully immersed in these environments, including taking a lot of their classes online as we speak. So I think the future bodes well for a sort of a very broad and open history for future for esports.
Yeah, and I think you touched on an important element of esports. One is that they are culturally relevant. Lots of people are watching them, watch on Twitch, on YouTube. Lots of other streaming platforms are trying to get involved, whether it's Facebook or Microsoft. And so you're totally right in that in the absence of traditional sports right now, people are looking for entertainment. They're looking for opportunities, and esports are pretty much unhindered by COVID and remote learning right now. So yeah, I think it's interesting to watch, and I will say I have seen a lot of increased interest globally around what we're doing, given that traditional sports, especially on college campuses, are going to be reduced or non-existent this fall, and who knows if and when we'll be back playing those sports, which I desperately miss. I'm really excited to get back out there. So we have a little bit more time, so I guess I'm going to make a quick appeal to the audience. If anyone's listening and wants to ask any of our panelists questions, feel free to type it in chat, and if we get to it, we'll try to answer it live, and if not, we'll try to answer it after the show. I do have another question for you. So we're talking about viewership. Talk about where and how people are watching, and maybe some of the big innovations that you think differentiate esports from traditional sports.
Well, I think that one of the interesting things that compelled me to look at esports more closely was the fact that traditional sports platforms, like for example ESPN, covers esports sort of seamlessly with other sports, and that the blurring of the boundaries there, I think, bode well for both industries. And obviously there's a large degree of crossover between the performance context of traditional sports, live sports, and esports, of some of which you can see in some of the in neuroscience research, for example, you see that there is a great deal of crossover between being able to perform at a high level in a three-dimensional, quickly moving environment, and of course doing so in a live environment. And I think the training techniques that you find in esports or in virtual environments are currently finding their way into athletic environments, and so this crossover will continue.
Well, great. I totally agree, and really appreciate your perspective as a leader at Fullerton, as a sociologist, as a colleague in college esports. It's great to reconnect. Appreciate all the kind things you said about UCI and our program, and we're really wishing you the best and look forward to kind of growing esports in Orange County. And you made a great point that Orange County is one of the absolute hotspots for esports and video games on the planet. Irvine, I think, is always ranked in the top 10 cities of schools doing esports, and we both happen to have campuses here. You mentioned Blizzard, and so I think all of those are reasons that it's happening here. So I want to thank Steve for joining us. We're going to have another segment right after this on partnerships and support for esports. So thank you so much. I'd like to now introduce our next panelist, Lila Bowman. She's a program officer with the Samueli Foundation. We're lucky she's joining us live from Miami, Florida, 3 hours into the future. Lila, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'd rather be there.
I'm a little jealous of you. So Lila, if you can just kind of tell us a little bit about the Samueli Foundation. I'm obviously very familiar, work very closely with you. The Samuelis have a huge name and presence in Orange County, but tell us about the foundation.
Samueli Foundation has been a leader in philanthropy, certainly in Orange County and nationally and internationally for 20 years. Our focus and our mission is about improving lives of others. Specifically, our core mission is around education, STEM education, and workforce, and in entrepreneurial and catalytic ways, of which NASEF is one of our efforts.
Awesome. And yeah, for those that don't know, I think it's interesting to be talking about sports and talking about esports, specifically with the Samuelis involved, because they actually own a hockey team, the Anaheim Ducks. And here we are not talking about hockey right now. We're talking about esports. So you mentioned NASEF. I obviously work with it. It stands for the North America Scholastic Esports Federation. It's been around a couple years. It's really about providing opportunities and learning for young people to give them the skills to thrive in work and life. But give us a little overview of your work with NASEF, specifically around what you've done in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, you mentioned the Ducks, and that really was the genesis behind NASEF, right? At one point, a couple of years ago, Dr. Samueli was asked to go and investigate esports, and our executive director at the time, said, "Well, I'm not sure about esports, but I can tell you that I think esports as a tool for helping kids connect their passion around sports and esports specifically to workforce and STEM, that might be the way to go." So there's a connection there, and I joined actually about a little over a year ago now. In terms of my work with NASEF, I used to work with Lego Education. I was responsible for all of their STEM content and curriculum nationally, and I've been I've been a coach, a robotics coach, for over 15 years. My kids were in robotics, and that was their way of of competing in a really complex organization. But I also knew that they aged out, and that there were a ton of kids that weren't really interested in robotics, and they weren't engaged. Dr. Walk spoke earlier about how important engagement is for students to feel connected to their school and then be successful. And if you weren't being connected to STEM, there's also a really concern about your school meeting its mission to produce great citizens. And so when I knew that they weren't being connected to STEM through robotics, I started looking around and came across the work of the Samueli Foundation. I was already a part of the STEM ecosystem work that had been another catalytic investment. And I thought Scholastic Esports might be something that could really connect. I visited in October, I believe, of 2018. I saw some work that was in Santa Ana for the STEM ecosystems. I thought, how is this STEM? But upon investigation, I really realized that it was a Trojan horse, and we could teach about the myriad of opportunities in careers and in taking just advanced classes in STEM, and not just game design and game development, but it could be around IT, it could be around e-commerce, it could be around entrepreneurship and finance, it could be just around broadcast like we're doing now. There are just so many opportunities for students to be able to thrive through esports. So on a whim, I launched the Florida Scholastic Esports League. It was a volunteer thing for me. Florida has, out of the top 10 most popular school districts in the country, 6 of them are in Florida. Where I'm right now, 500,000 students in one school district and not cut up. So when you're able to touch one school district, you're able to have a really great impact. So in 4 months, we were able to get into all 6 of those school districts and more, and had thousands of students participating really quickly. And I thought, okay, this really works. And about half a year later, kept on growing the organization in Florida, helping represent what we did in Florida and other states. And I was invited to join the foundation as a senior program officer, which I'm very proud. And continuing the great work of NASEF. Dr. Walk also mentioned that there's 30 or so teams and schools in Orange County. Right now, if you think about those humble beginnings of 28 schools and 35 teams, we're now at over 1,000 teams nationally, 10,000 students nationally. We have agreements with the British Esports Association, Mexico, where we have done a number of different competitions, Japan, France, South Africa, Israel, even the United Arab Emirates, which just joined as a partner to us. So we know it's not a local phenomenon. We know it's an international and national phenomenon. And it provides a platform where kids who typically wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to connect with others around the world in an organized way through school, right? They can connect on Discord right now across the world. But when you're doing it on your team and you have a teacher there and you can be celebrated in your school, you're giving access to global competencies in this project-based way, and it's really immersive that you typically wouldn't have before. Teachers say that their students that are in these clubs are going through their work 3 times faster because the work is for school and for their team, and they really believe in it. Of course, they're going to school, their attendance is better, their interest is better. We have all of our work is research-based from UCI. Actually, Dr. Constance Steinkuhler has been researching NASEF's curriculum, and we know that the kids come out more engaged in STEM, and their parents support it, and they're going into college wanting to actually study it. So I think I didn't mention the most important part of NASEF. It's at no cost. It's totally free. So all of this work, all the curriculum, the research, the professional development is the support of the Samueli family and the Samueli Family Foundation. Our partnership with UCI, there's many people on your staff as well that help support that we could not be able to do this work without you and without them. I'll call them out, Samantha Anton, Justice Eves. And it's an incredible effort from a group to be able to reach all these students. So it's free. And it's really hard for schools, especially in today's day and age, to say no to something that is so cost and also has such great impact.
Wow, thank you for all that. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of awesome things there. Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more about kind of NASEF and some of the things it offers. There are several different providers creating high school esports ecosystems. There's now thousands of schools in the US and North America that have clubs and programs. But some of the things that really stick out for NASEF, one is a price point. You mentioned it's free. There's also curriculum that was helped be designed by our friends at the Orange County Department of Education. So they've also played a really central role in building up NASEF, and they have done such a great job of tying what happens in NASEF to all the learning outcomes that are required by states and counties and different educational authorities. So love to talk a little bit more about, about the curriculum that's developed on the English language arts track, talk about the certifications and how it's tied to like the career technical ed and all those things that you're probably a little bit more familiar with than I am.
Yeah, so the basis of NASEF, beyond the passion that kids have for esports, is its curriculum. The very first step was working with the Orange County Department of Ed, our Chief Academic Officer, Tom Turner, and his amazing team. And they spent a number of months working first in English language arts. That's the first foray that they went into, and created a 4-year course progression, grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, but focused around esports. So, if you give, I used to be a former English teacher, actually, the principal. So instead of teaching Beowulf in 12th grade English, which I can tell you, kids are like, what is this story? This has nothing to do with me. They're looking at esports and entrepreneurship and all of the language and business to run a tournament, for example. So they're still doing the writing and the reading, the presenting of language arts, but it's through this, lens, if you will, of esports. So the very first step was this curriculum started in an English and language arts. It's the only state-approved curriculum in the country. That makes it obviously really attractive as well, besides the price point, right? It's based in academics. It's a UC approved. And it's also available not just for high school now in ELA, we also have an approved middle school track as well, middle school program that can be used as an elective, and 15 CTE tracks. as well. So there's a number of different certifications from graphic design to cybersecurity that really align to what we're doing. So yeah, without the OCDE partnership, we wouldn't have this great curriculum to be able to offer to students around the country.
Awesome, thank you for that. I always am blown away by the insane amount of work that's gone into developing that curriculum and really tying it to educational outcomes. One thing we like to talk a lot about with NASEF, and it's particularly relevant when we think about sports, is that esports is much bigger than just the players that are actually on the team. Like we talk around the Ducks hockey team, there might be 20 players that get on the ice during any given night, but there's 1,000 employees for the Ducks that help either take tickets or graphic design or broadcast or marketing, sponsorship sales, all those different things. So can you talk about how we think about the esports ecosystem? I know we're offering scholarships and prizing and competitions for people who are not playing League of Legends or Overwatch, but they're actually competing in web design or graphic design or fandom art. Can you talk a little bit about how we think about the ecosystem and the beyond the game challenges?
Yeah, I think for folks who are really interested in understanding the esports ecosystem and our curricular foundation, going to our website and looking at it at nasef.org really helps. But like you said, 20 people on the ice, 1,000 folks on game day, right? I know at UCI you have 20 players, but you'll have maybe like 60 plus paid student positions to support the team. So it's definitely not just about the players. In fact, it's so much more about all of the other kids that are interested, even casually, in playing. In fact, in our clubs, I'd like to say that the majority of them are led by girls. So you don't typically hear about girls and women in esports, although I know you're going to have a great one coming up very soon in today's panel and today's forum. But our teams are typically often run by girls. And there's a lot of opportunity for kids to not just play casually or compete, certainly, but also to support their team by building out their website, by creating the team mascot, by running the tournaments. So by obviously streaming, shoutcasting. So we even offer from NASEF a shoutcasting program aligned with UCI Esports, which is an opportunity that most kids wouldn't get. So really it's about what we call these beyond the game opportunities and even beyond the game challenges. We don't give prizing, we give scholarships for kids to be able to go to college with us as well, and opportunities for them to demonstrate all of the work that goes behind having a successful esports team. It's not just the players, it's everybody in the club. And so what our clubs do is, enable those students to be successful as well. And they're all STEM careers. That's the thing that's really important, is that, when you're looking at marketing, marketing is digital marketing. When you're looking at cybersecurity, clearly that's STEM, but shoutcasting and streaming is a STEM activity. We do a ton in data analytics. There's tons of data in esports, and the ability for these kids that are just now fascinated to, from a simple level working with Excel and like learning how to seed their brackets, etc., to fully optimizing the performance. We even have, and we're starting right now, a 5th domain of our work around integrative health. The foundation has had a number of years of investment in integrative health, and we're working with OCC right now to create integrative health coaches for students. So ergonomically, they're seated correctly, they're getting the right kind of sleep, they're eating, good food as fuel, addressing mental health and social and emotional growth. We've seen that NASEF kids really grow socially and emotionally now more than ever. How important is that, right? To be connected and feeling, engaged with one another and grow those skills. So it's not just about gaming at all. It's about you as a person, your character, and what you can be, and your dreams. Kids have dreams, and we want to support that.
Wow, thank you for diving into all of that. I want to ask the same question which I asked Steve earlier. I'm going to ask Victoria after you. What do you think, as we wrap up here, what do you think is the future of esports?
It's endless. It's infinite. When you look at kids having concerts in Fortnite, right? Going to concerts in Fortnite, or, shopping in this world of what they call the multiverse. Esports will be a virtual place, place of gaming, of, just like we sit back on Super Bowl Sunday and hang out with our family and eat nachos. We're going to do the same thing, whether it's virtually or through esports. It's not going away. It's going to grow. And we have to embrace it and really help kids find ways to take the love that they have for it and grow. And the difference is, at least for me growing up, I played soccer, but I never thought I was going to be, I was a goalie, right? I never thought I would love to have been on the Olympic team, but I played in college and that was it. And I got injured and I was out. It never occurred to me in my school, and I never taught that it could be a career. In esports, we can do that. So the future is great in esports and for kids.
Well, awesome. And I know we're getting some questions from the audience. We're going to dive into those a little bit in the next segment. One of the questions was about NASEF and whether we're exploring tabletop games. Can you answer that in 30 seconds or less?
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes, we are. Sure.
I did it in 5 seconds.
Cool. All right. Well, Lila, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the beautiful weather in Miami. We're going to take a short commercial break here. You're actually going to get a quick peek at what UCI Esports looks like in our video entitled Best School for Gamers. So sit back. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, a 3-0 overall series.
It is the reigning college champions with the hometown crowd behind them, the University of California, Irvine.
UCI was the first public university to create an esports program back in 2016.
Not many schools were looking at esports as a way to get students interested in school and education.
UCI was the first to see it as an opportunity to get students more involved.
What I like to tell freshmen and what I like to tell a lot of high school students that come to us is that there are so many opportunities to get involved in esports, whether that's with our program or with our clubs, or there's so many ways.
We just really do care about supporting all of our students. The passion that they bring to the table is just incredible, right?
Well, we're the first out of the gate with a stated policy on diversity and inclusion and metrics to go back a year later to actually assess ourselves.
I'm just really glad that I'm with this group of people because I feel like they are all committed to this and that they want to get better. It motivates me to get better as well.
They're super enthusiastic, they want to work out, they're always asking for different things to do in their own workouts. So it's super humbling and super exciting to see.
Hey, you can join at any time. Nobody needs any experience. Just hop into it and you'll have lots of fun from the get-go. I think just letting you know that it's really welcoming no matter what your skill level is.
We are one of the biggest gaming organizations on UCI campus. It really brings gamers together and it allows gamers to feel like, oh, there's a place for me.
Really seen them grow and come together with some cohesiveness as a team to establish a strong team identity.
It's easy to forget sometimes that they're also students. They're busy, they're stressed, they have finals. It's our job to support them to the best of our ability. And that's why UCI is the #1 school for gamers.
All right, there you have it. Our super dramatic video on why we think UCI is a great school for gamers. And in it, you probably saw a cameo of our next guest. Please help me welcome Overwatch varsity starter, scholarship player, overall superstar, beloved participant in our program, Victoria Wynn. Victoria, thanks so much for making time today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Give us a little bit of background on your competitive gaming history and how did you find your way to UCI and getting on the Overwatch team?
Well, I've kind of been playing video games like since I was born. I have all these baby pictures of me playing on the computer. And so when Overwatch came out, it was pretty much the first game that I've ever played like competitively. And so I just started playing the rank system and then I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of good at this game. It'd be cool if I could get other people and play on a team and see what's that like. So I ended up just like kind of Googling around and finding out that there were high school tournaments and eventually coming across NASEF later. And so once I played on a team with a bunch of high schoolers where we weren't from the same school, but we were kind of like all across the country. So we got to play in some high school tournaments and we did well in those. So it was a lot of fun. I was like, wow, I wish I had known that I could be on a team. And there's probably lots of kids at school who would like to do something like this. So then I started a club at my high school where people could join teams for Overwatch and League of Legends and all play together. And then kind of from there, it was like, okay, I know there's collegiate esports out there. So maybe when I go to college, I'll be on an esports team.
Well, awesome. And you're from the area? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Chaparral High School in Temecula.
Okay. Well, some of our questions, we're getting viewership questions. A lot of people are interested in the collegiate esports experience. One of the questions I'll answer, which is what games do we offer scholarships for? Right now, it's just League of Legends, Overwatch, and Super Smash Ultimate. There's a lot of other games out there that are very popular, both on campus and more broadly, but those are the ones we're supporting now. But we also have really strong clubs for many other competitive games, whether it's Valorant or Counter-Strike or other things out there. So lots of great things on college campuses, whether or not there are scholarships for them. And I'm going to keep looking at the questions that come in. I'm going to keep answering the ones that I'm seeing are repeats. So we'll get to those. So Victoria, I'm going to brag about you just a little bit. You're not just like your average gamer. Our team's not just your average team. Our Overwatch team has been kind of elite since Overwatch came out. We just finished the season as national semifinalists. Several hundred schools started. We ended up losing in the semifinals. But you're a starter on our superstar team full of superstar players that is used to winning. We just won the UCLA Summer Invitational. Congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you.
But one thing I want to note, and Lila mentioned it earlier, is you stand out in that you're the only girl in our program of elite esports teams in college. I'm unaware of any other women on teams. So talk a little bit about some of the barriers you think that women face that are extra barriers for you. And I'd love to hear how you overcame them. And I've heard a little bit of that over the years, but tell our viewers kind of what the experience is like and how do you push through that?
Well, I think most of the barriers come from the online experience. Before you actually get to be on a team and get to be in a program, you have to first kind of prove yourself on the ranked ladder where you're paired with random strangers and you're against random strangers. And that's kind of where you face the most obstacles. So you have to deal with people just being mean to you because you're a girl for no reason, and where everyone's kind of anonymous, so they feel like they can be bullying you and saying bad things about you with like no consequence. So once you can overcome that, and then you can actually like get on this program. It's like being on the Overwatch team for UCI is like really fun, and I've never felt like unwelcome. I feel like everyone has my back here. So
well, I think you should be really proud. We're very proud of you, and you're a unicorn. And so we just want to let you know how much we appreciate you and acknowledge that you have had some extra hurdles that you've had to overcome. So a lot of people are interested in like what the average experience is for a competitive player. Can you describe like what an average week looks like on the team? What's the practice look like? What do the competitions look like?
well, normally our practices are like 2 hours, and sometimes we'll have an hour of like VOD review beforehand. And then after the actual practice, we'll have a debrief where we go over what we learned and what was working, what's not working, what we're going to work on next time. And when we actually practice kind of depends on the school year. Of course, when we have things like finals or somebody has all these projects coming up, then we'll kind of ease up on the practices. We won't have as many that week. And then when we're free, then we kind of have like a practice every weekday, you know? And then usually our games will have 1 or 2 on the weekends.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, VOD review stands for video on demand. So our teams will actually watch our own play, our own practices. We'll actually scout out opponents as well. We'll watch their videos to understand their tendencies and the compositions and strategies they employ. So it's pretty complex. We have a great coaching staff that leads those efforts, and a great manager who helps organize all of these things. It is a robust effort to get everyone coordinated and on time in the same place. One of our questions, I'm going to hop in real quick, Victoria, and answer around sponsorships. People are asking, do we track these and compare them to corporate partnerships from traditional sports? I will say one of my primary roles with our program is finding resources. When we built our program, we pitched it as a cost-neutral enterprise. And so one of our main funding sources is corporate sponsorships. And so we found some very generous corporate sponsors. There's a local PC maker up in City of Industry up in LA, iBuyPower, who provided PCs and cash for our space. Logitech's our peripheral provider. They provide cash and product to help our teams play at a high level. And then you'll see us in other relationships that the campus has, whether it's the Pepsi relationship or others. And so a lot of corporations are interested in engaging with this new demographic that's hard to reach through linear television and other places. They're online and they want to be connected to it in an authentic way. So corporate sponsors are very much in esports. I would say the non-hardware, non-software companies are still figuring out their strategies around esports, but the computer makers, the people that make the tools of the trade are deeply invested right now, and lots of others are interested in jumping on board. So thanks for letting me take a quick aside for that, Victoria. Talk about some of the program. I've mentioned some of the program staff support, but what would you say some of the challenges are that are unique to being a competitive gamer in your experience so far?
Well, I guess there's always just you're both playing video games where you have to practice and make sure you're keeping up with things that constantly change, because with video games, the rules are always changing, and you have like once a month, like some big patch comes in. And so now you have to get all up to speed on that, and you can't ever fall behind everybody once things are updating. And then so you have to keep on top of that while you're also doing schoolwork. And then some days you just have all these projects. And then so you have to tell your coaches like, hey, I need to take a break or two to focus on school, because of course you can't be on the team if you're not doing well at school. So.
Yeah, the patching is something I want to touch on a little bit. So League of Legends is a game that we support. It's probably the most popular sport on the planet. It patches every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, the game developer re-releases a new version, a slightly tweaked version of the game with new rules around how the map interacts with characters, power level of characters, the items that you build. And so essentially, the team and players have to rethink about how to play the game. League of Legends every 2 weeks. Overwatch, it's less frequent, less regular, but it still is a really, I think, interesting element of esports in which the games they try to keep the game fresh and new and evolving. And so recently there have been some pretty impactful changes in Overwatch, and it might make it really unfun for a few weeks or months. It might make it really stale, or the same strategy might get boring. But I think that's something really unique, and I'm really impressed by our coaching staff and our players for consistently reevaluating the best ways to win the game and the best ways to compete. Victoria, what advice would you give for people looking to go into esports or play competitive esports, either high school or collegiately?
Well, I think it just starts with like playing on the ladder and seeing what you can do from the ladder. And then once you feel like you're at a pretty decent rank, maybe like masters or grandmaster, then you can start like thinking about, okay, maybe I want to join a team, get some team experience, and then always keeping in mind that it's not just, okay, I can click heads and my mechanics are well, but you also have to be able to play well on a team. You have to communicate well. You have to be willing to take constructive criticism from people and apply that to your play. And you have to be flexible. You can't just one trick a hero and expect to get on a team that way. So.
That's right. I'm just trying to define some of these terms. So one tricking.
I keep using all these terms and I forget.
Describe why one tricking, and describe what it is and why it doesn't work.
Yeah, so one tricking is just basically in Overwatch, there are different heroes you can pick from who you want to play. And one tricking just means you only play one hero and you're pretty much only good at that one hero. And like we said, the game like updates and patch notes can change pretty much entirely how the game works. Some patches are even like, wow, this role is pretty much non-existent anymore. And so there's all these heroes that are much better than others. And if you can't play those heroes, then why would the team want to play you? Because then you can't work within their strats and you're kind of letting everyone down. So you need to be more flexible. You need to be able to adapt to the game that constantly changes.
That's a great point. Some of the advice I give people is to, one, you have to specialize in a role, right? You can't be a generalist. You can't be a little bit good at everything. You're a support player, and we want a phenomenal support player. We're not going to ask you to be a DPS player or a tank unless something crazy happens. But we really want people who are specialized in a role. But once you're specialized in that role, you need to have a diverse champion pool, be able to play all the important heroes at that level. So you're a main support, so you play every single one of the main supports. And so when the meta shifts or our team wants to try a new strategy, let's say an opponent has a particular way they play, and we want Victoria to play a different champion than she normally plays, or hero, because it will really counter their strategy. You have to be flexible enough to pick that up. And they might have rebalanced it 2 weeks ago. So you have to kind of relearn the champion, the hero, and relearn the game essentially. So I love that about esports, and I'm really impressed how you all are able to practice as much and kind of adapt to the ever-changing world. So another question we got from the group, I'm going to ask real quick, and if you want to comment on any of these, Victoria, feel free. But I think it was just around like opportunities in esports beyond the collegiate and scholastic side. The professional esports scene is certainly growing. There's an absolutely insane amount of investment happening into esports. A lot of people describe it as the Wild West. It's largely unregulated. There's a lot of investment, a lot of speculation, I would call it at this point. It's hard to predict what games are going to be the games of the future, what professional leagues are going to be the leagues of the future. But a lot of people are investing and speculating and hoping that if they get into the right niche at the right time, at the right level, it'll be a huge payoff. So for me, I've heard other people describe it as big boy poker. I think that's a fair analogy, is that a lot of people are, like I said, trying to make strategic investments right now in hopes that will pay off in the same way that traditional sports franchise and investments have paid off. But I think those are still several years away. And so while Shaq and all these other professional athletes are investing, yeah, it's still too early to see if those were smart investments. I think a lot won't be, but I do think if you want to watch my crappy TED Talk from several years ago, I talk about esports as the future of competition. I do believe that. I do believe this is the way we are going to compete into the future. So I think it's worth paying attention to at least. So Victoria, one last question I want to ask you. I've asked our other panelists the same question, but what do you think the future of esports, what do you think the future of sports looks like?
Well, I'm thinking that, well, as a player, I hope that in the future, there's a more clear road path from, like, let's say from high school up to the pro level, where high school teams are the norm and you can just join your high school team, and then you can expect to be able to join a team in college, and from there pros and their teams are hopefully scouting you and you have a real chance of being on a pro team. Because right now, like you said, like the whole Wild West feel, right now it's like, how do I get on a pro team? Well, you just grind the ladder, play on teams, hope, get a little bit lucky, you know? So hopefully in the future it's kind of like traditional sports where your parents encourage you as a little kid and hope you be the big football star one day, you know?
Absolutely. Are your parents pretty proud of your efforts so far? Are they cheering you on when you play?
Yeah, my parents watch all our games, even if they don't really understand how to play and what's going on, they still watch.
Well, awesome. Well, awesome. And I know we had a question earlier about scholarships. I just want to reiterate, yeah, Victoria is on our scholarship team. For our varsity players, we offer $6,000 scholarships to be on the team. And there's additional prizing when you win tournaments or events. And so being semifinalists. There was an additional prize, I think, at the end of that. And then most tournaments that we participate in offer small prizes as well. So we are trying to reward players and incentivize them because it is a massive investment of time and energy and brain space. They are making big sacrifices in their personal lives, their academic lives, their social lives to compete on our team. So we try to help compensate them for that. So those are all our 3 great panelists today. Thank you so much to our sponsors, UCI and UCI Health. Thank you to all of you viewers who tuned in to listen. It's always exciting for me to get to share what I'm working on at UC Irvine and with NASEF. I think it's important for Orange County residents and community members to understand what's happening in your region because, again, as we've said, it's a powerhouse region for games and esports. So for more information, please visit the OC Forum or any of the websites listed in the description section of this program or this video. I think that's all we have today. So thank you again, and we hope to see you again. It's been a pleasure having you all, and have a great rest of your week.